Darkness is not just the absence of light, it is the absence of life. The emotions that are most common that are felt in the darkness is unhappiness, distress, gloom, loneliness, disappointment, and abandonment. So how do you know if you are in a dark season? We pick up this story in Luke chapter 22, late at the night in the garden, where he goes back to his disciples, Peter, James, and John, and they had fallen asleep. And listen to what the Gospel of Luke chapter 22, verse 47 tells us. While he was still speaking, there came a crowd. He was speaking to Peter, James, and John. And the man called Judas, one of his followers, one of the 12, was leading them. He drew near to Jesus to kiss him. But Jesus said to him, Judas, would you betray the Son of Man with a kiss? And when those who were around him saw what would follow, they said, Lord, shall we strike with the sword? And one of them, the disciples, struck the servant of the high priest and cut off his right ear. But Jesus said to him, no more of this. And he touched his ear and healed him. Then Jesus said to the chief priests and officers of the temple and elders who had come out against him, have you come out as against a robber with swords and clubs? When I was with you day after day in the temple, you did not lay hands on me. But this is your hour, the hour and the power of darkness. Today's sermon that I bring to you is titled Into the Night. Into the night, Jesus and the disciples go to the garden. And into the night is where maybe some of us find ourselves today. As we spend this moment together, I want to focus on the last word right there in that passage that we read from Luke chapter 22, darkness. All of us have experienced dark moments, dark hours, and dark seasons in our lives. And today, we're going to look at why, what is it, and how do we overcome it. A few years ago, I heard a story about an 8-year-old boy. Every time as he began to prepare himself for his nighttime routine, he didn't just take a bath or brush his teeth or read a bedtime story, but every night he grabbed a wooden baseball bat and put it right there by his nightstand. After getting the baseball bat in place, he would then grab a red Swiss Army knife, neatly tucked it under his pillow. You see, like many children his age, he was scared of the darkness. But for this 8-year-old boy, he didn't put the bat there to have dreams about being a baseball player one day. He didn't put the Swiss Army knife under his pillow in order to have great dreams about being an explorer or an adventurer. He was scared of the dark. And he was not just scared of the physical darkness, he was scared of the darkness that reigned over his home. As this young boy, this 8-year-old, got in bed, he'd begin to pray every single night. He'd begin to cry, he'd begin to beg and plead, God, please God, would tonight be the night? Would I wake up, would it be different? Would you bring my father home? Every night as he laid there praying, he would see the headlights from cars as they passed down the street and cast a shadow on the walls. Is that him? Is that my father? Is that my dad? Is he come home finally? This would continue night after night, day after day, week after week, month after month, over years of time, the same thing, the baseball bat, the Swiss Army knife, the fear of darkness, because the darkness reigned over his home. And no matter how much he prayed, no matter how much he begged, he was still awakened the next morning. So his dad never showing up. This 8-year-old boy understood darkness. He experienced darkness. In a room like this, and adults from every walk of life, many of us understand and have experienced darkness too. Maybe the darkness that you've experienced in the dark hours or dark seasons, the result of the death of a loved one. Maybe it's losing your job or business. Maybe it's the affliction of a life-threatening disease. Maybe it's you every time you wake up in the morning. You click on your bank account and it's still showing zeros. And you're worried of how you're going to provide for your kids, your family, the people you love most. How you're going to get through this dark season. But maybe you find yourself in a dark season based on your decisions, your mistakes, the pain you have caused to someone that you love and care about. As we approach dark hours and dark seasons of the soul, this always comes as a result of a problem or situation becoming too overwhelming for our physical bodies to bear. Emotionally, we can't handle it. Physically, we can't handle it. Mentally, we can't handle it. And we enter into a dark season. And a dark night of the soul affects every person in some season, in some stage of life. And as we begin to talk about this word, darkness, I want to start by defining it for each and every one of us. By definition, darkness means the partial or total absence of light. By definition, darkness is the partial or total absence of light. But we're not just talking about physical darkness in the nighttime. We're talking about a dark hour of the soul, a dark moment, a dark season. So how would we define that? I submit to you today this definition. Darkness is not just the absence of light, it is the absence of life. So how do you know if you are in a dark season? The emotions that are most common that are felt in the darkness is unhappiness, distress, gloom, loneliness, disappointment, and abandonment. These are the things we feel when our life is absent, that we're lost in the darkness. But can I tell you something this morning? God did not create you to live life in the dark. God created you to live in the light.